Just
Done already.
pulled my.
We're 1 minute in.
Okay, I can edit that out. Yeah, I've got to.
You need AirPods.
Oh, I know. I tried it, but they didn't work properly. Okay, good morning, everybody. Today, as I said in our introduction, we have Pat Cunningham. Pat Cunningham, good morning.
Good morning, Jane Simpson.
Pat is one of the original founders of Fight MND. Pat, we like to start our little podcast off with finding out about who you are, not what you do. Move in a bit.
Right. She's very bossy. Person.
I'm a very bossy person.
Who I am. I'm a 51-year-old father of two girls, living in the leafy eastern suburbs of Melbourne.
Good place to be.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I've just dropped my two off at school just around the corner from Jane's place. So, look, I can give you a whole heap more than that, but they're probably the fundamentals. 51-year-old bloke with two daughters, living in Melbourne, like to play a fair bit of golf, and doing a bit of work in the footy and non-for-profit space still, after all these years.
What work do you do in the footy space?
At the moment, I'm doing a project with the St Kilda Footy Club and just looking at their non-for-profit work and supporting them with a new strategy going forward.
Can you teach them how to win a game?
That is not my remit.
I don't think it's anyone's remit at the moment.
Hey, Jane, let's be optimistic. It hasn't been a great start to the year for the Saints.
And that comes from a Hawthorn supporter.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Yeah.
You didn't ask me who I barracked for.
No, I'm not interested.
Bombers.
Yeah. Well, no, so still sort of gravitating to the footy space a bit, which is great.
Yeah.
It's a comfy space for me.
Why are you involved in MND? His trigger warning, Pat cries all the time, so just get ready.
God, that didn't take long at all. No. And what sort of created a little wave there is just thinking about the date of the 29th of June, 2012, where my wife and I walked into a clinic that was run by the brother-in-law of my best mate, who actually introduced me to my wife. So, we walked into this gentleman's clinic. We were concerned that Ange, my wife Ange was slurring her words, and we went to an ear, nose and throat specialist, and they couldn't work it out. They said best you maybe go and see a neurologist. So we went and saw this friend of the family, and he said the words, well, we know you don't have, I can tell you don't have MS from the scans. I can also tell there's a little hound next to us doesn't like my voice clearly. There is, look, we know it's not multiple sclerosis, and we also know that you don't have a brain tumor from the scans. He said, but from my, he became very uncomfortable in his seat, and he said, I can't be sure of what it is, but I'm worried about what it might be. So, yeah, that was 4:30 on the 29th of June, 2012. So that was the day the journey started to end up here talking to you today, Jane. Yeah.
Did he say at that point what they were worried about?
No, he didn't. But
did you go on Google?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And Ange had already established that was a possibility. So we walked out of his treatment room into the hallway, and although I have a tendency to get a little emotional, Ange was a lot better with that, and she lost it as well. So yeah, so we had to hightail it home to our two daughters, who were 5 and 2 at the time, and just try and try and contemplate. Look, it wasn't a confirmed diagnosis, as you know all too well, Jane.
Yep.
It took probably another 5 weeks for the confirmation to come through. But in those 5 weeks, they were just eliminating all the other potential ailments that it could be. So that's how it started.
I've read a few interviews that Ange did. I bloody loved her, even though I haven't met her. She and I would have got on real well.
Yeah, I know, absolutely.
No bullshit with her. So was it her idea to start raising funds, or was it a joint idea, or how did that thinking start?
It's interesting. So Ange had been living with the disease for a little over a year. It was probably about 18 months, and she used to work for the WTA tour, the global tour for women's tennis.
She was a champion tennis player.
And her colleague said, "We're coming to Melbourne for the Australian Open. We'd like to do something." They said, "If you don't feel up to it, that's okay. We'd still like to do something, whether you're involved or not. That's your option." So Ange and I chatted about it, and we said, "Well, there's a unique opportunity here to do something in terms of awareness and fundraising for research." So we popped in to see Craig Tiley at the Australian Open, and he said, "Yeah, we're behind it." And we created a little campaign called Laugh to Cure MND. Now, the principle behind that, we all know that clearly it's not a laughing matter, despite our dark humour, Jane. Which was the point. Yep. And the point was, if there is no medicine, laughter is the best medicine.
Correct.
So we created this campaign, and we were completely blown away. We raised $145,000 with the support of Channel 7 and Tennis Australia through the Australian Open. Called on some friends from the tennis world. So that was a campaign. Then in August of 2014, we decided that we'd have a crack at the world record ice bucket challenge at what is now Marvel Stadium.
Okay.
Yep. And there was another $150,000 raised, and at that time, it was by far the biggest independently run fundraiser that MND had ever seen. Fast forward 10 years, and what the enormous team at Fight MND has been able to do. It's odd to think that was a thing once, that $150,000 into research was a big thing. How much
money? Yeah. How did you and Neale and Ian and Ange all get together?
I was working at the AFL from 2010, and my paths would cross with Neale semi-regularly. Ange was diagnosed in June of 2012, as I said. Neale was diagnosed toward the back half of 2013. The World Record Ice Bucket Challenge attempt had Beck Daniher and her husband Drew and Loz. There was the Daniher crew were there, which was lovely. And then Neale was still in the West at this stage, and he was contemplating the move, and he asked to get together. He had seen what we'd been doing, and he had been separately. He had run the Daniher Drive over in the West, and it was terribly successful. So he said, "Paddy, why don't we get together and have a chat about what we're doing and see whether there's an alignment?" And he had been in touch with Ian Davis separately. They had done a very clever TV ad using some footy personalities. And then so I knew Neale knew Ian. The three of us came together in a little cafe on Glenferrie Road in Hawthorn. And we thought, we're all 100% aligned in what we were endeavouring to do.
Yeah.
And Neale, being the brilliant thinker that he is, said, well, we're all aligned, but we need to check that there's no one else doing what we're planning to do, because there's no point duplicating things.
Yeah.
So it was only about I think it was 11 days later that the first meeting in or around the concept of the big freeze at the G happened. Yeah.
I love this no mucking around stuff. I mean, just
very much your wheelhouse.
get in there and do it. Stop fucking around. Okay, so that was the birth.
Apologies, listeners, on potty mouth here, but anyway.
I am actually known as potty mouth from Toorak, so that's okay. So that's the birth of Fight MND.
Yeah, so that was the birth of the
and the big freeze.
Yeah, at that stage, Ian Davis had been setting up a charitable entity for him because he was doing some work as well.
Yeah,
in the fundraising space, and we established what is now known as Fight MND. But the foundation was established as the Cure for MND. Oh. The Cure for MND Foundation. So okay. If you look it up through the ACNC, it's still the official name of the charitable entity.
It's one thing I didn't Google.
No.
No one I will.
One of the all-time Google. You're a powerhouse of Google.
I'm a powerhouse.
Yeah. So Fight MND is effectively our trading name.
Okay. So how much has Fight MND raised over the last 10 years?
Well, we like to talk about what we've invested. So we've invested about $85 million into pursuing an effective treatment or a cure. And we're now drifting more into cause as well, trying to identify the cause of MND.
Well, we're kind of behind you on that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just so
we need some form of register. We need to know what are the commonalities. Is it water? Is it toxins? Is it bump to the head? What the hell is it? Yes. So that is.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've moved through. It's been an amazing journey to watch, where we've become one of the biggest independent funders of research in the world now. But the quality of the people that we have involved in not only applying for grants of funds, but reviewing the grants of funds, and also the people that sit within our board and our subcommittees at Fight MND. It's really breathtaking, the quality of the people involved. I'm very humbled with having the ability to interact with these people. As the organisation has grown, our focus has become sharper around where the potential impact that we can have, and ensuring that it's always been a core focus of Fight MND to invest in the absolute best science available. And as we say, it's the challenge of investing money into science, that can be done very easily. The challenge of investing into excellent science is a lot more work, and that's why we need people a lot cleverer than me involved.
And me.
No, well.
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty clever, but we need a lot cleverer than us.
So it's been that's how much has been invested into the research and effective treatments, and we've also invested almost $13 million into investing in largely equipment, but also now moving into research and guidelines into the best form of care for people with MND. We we still to this day hear some. They're all tragic stories.
Yeah.
But the experiences that some people, for a variety of reasons, have in the receiving best care, even despite the best efforts of really great people who are just a little probably light on resources. Yeah. So
so a few things there. Everyone knows I bang on about consistency of care the whole time, protocol of care, and people. Have you spilt stuff on you? People do have the best of intention, but our medical system is absolutely full to pussy's boat, and we need better education as well. We also need for people with MND and their carers to learn how to be better advocates for themselves as well.
Yeah, we've got this. We hear about two-speed economies. We've got a similar sort of thing with the care for people with MND. Those are who are eligible within the NDIS system clearly have access to resourcing, and not necessarily solutions, but because there's not a regardless of the resources, some of sadly the ailments with MND can't be resourced out of.
No.
However, those with access to the NDIS have, relatively speaking, wonderful access to resources, but those that fall within the aged care system, sadly, do not.
Yeah. Thank you for being polite.
I can drift between being diplomatic and very un-PC at times, Jane.
Okay, yeah, I do. So we'll do the un-PC bit in a bit. Oh, off camera. Okay, so 10 years of Big Freeze this year. It's very exciting. We've had the first slider announced today.
Yeah, first slider announced today. I had I put the call into so Pat Rafter's just been announced, and Pat played mixed doubles tennis with my wife many moons ago.
How old's Pat Rafter now?
Oh, he must be 50. I reckon he's 51. About my age.
Jeez, mate, where's time going?
Oh, maybe yeah. It's got to be around the half century. Yeah, so wonderful to have him on board. The tennis community has been affected a couple of times by MND, which is no surprise. It's a big community, and MND is more prevalent than we think.
Well, 1 in 200.
Yeah, that's just a frightening number.
Yep.
So first slider announced this morning, another one to be announced later this afternoon, which will be which actually has this next person. I know this will go to air after it's already been announced, but Nick Natanui, who's about to be announced today, was on site at Channel 7 the morning we launched the Ice Bucket Challenge World Record attempt. We did it we did it live on TV in a Channel 7 show called Game Day. And a mate of mine, Hamish and Ange's. Yeah. By the way, I'm almost convinced Hamish loved Ange certainly more than me. It was really uncomfortable.
Was that unrequited love?
Yes. Yeah, and Ange would tell him to pull it anyway. So I
Hamish.
Yes,
it's now 10 years on, mate.
So we threw Haim under the bus. He took one for the team.
Yeah.
Did an ice bucket challenge when it had only just started sweeping the globe. This thing. Haim did it on Game Day live.
Well,
it was a bad choice to wear a white shirt for him that day, but
look, at least he's a boy, not a girl.
Yeah. And Nick Natanui was standing next to him at the time.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So,
well, isn't that the best name in the world?
It is great.
Say it again, Nick Natanui.
Nick Natanui. Nick Natanui. Yeah.
So good. So good name.
Yeah. So that was 10 years. Well, that was August 2014. And then the start of the Big Freeze, we had this meeting, and And the concept of the big freeze came first, but we didn't know how to create an activation around it.
Yeah.
And I'd been working at the AFL for years, and part of my role at the AFL was to sort of know the ins and outs of the MCG. And I knew that area where like a race where the groundskeepers take the tractors on and all the growing lights and everything. Yeah. So I thought, there's an idea here. So I rang a mate of mine who installs fiberglass pools. And I said, I've got a challenge for you. He said, what is it? I said, I want you to put a pool into the MCG temporarily.
With a slide.
Yeah. So, and then I said, I need you to tell me if you've got any contacts of anyone, given you work in fiberglass pools, who was a fiberglass manufacturer that can do some clever stuff, because I need a 7-metre long fiberglass slide.
Okay, that's easy. Anyway,
so the pool guy's name's Brendan Donovan, still a good mate today.
Thanks, Brendan.
Thanks, Brendan, and still puts the pool in.
Oh, Brendan.
And then I called a guy called Glenn King, who has been a great supporter of the cause since that day, and he still puts the slide in every year.
Where's it stored?
It's stored in his warehouse.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Brendan.
Oh no, yeah, sorry. The slide is the pool tends to change a little bit, but yeah, Brendan looks after that for us and looks after the install of the pool. But the slide has gone through a couple of very minor renovations over the years that you probably wouldn't notice, just to make it appropriate. And Glenn King's been a terrific supporter as well. Look, if I started going through the people
we have to thank, it's like the Oscars, we'd never get out of here.
Yeah.
So Nita was on the other day.
Oh yeah.
And Nita thought that perhaps a lot of the ice cubes in the pool were fake.
Oh, okay. And
then you got in there.
Yeah, that's right. No, they are the real deal. Another incredible supporter, Bell's Ice. So if you go to a 7-Eleven, you'll get a Bell's bag of ice. They have, since day one, donated all the ice required.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it really is incredible. And that relationship started through a mate of mine from school. Yeah, when we were doing the world record challenge, he said, "Oh mate, I might be able to organise a few pallets of ice." 10 years later, God, that'd be
how many tons of ice?
40 tons of ice, I reckon. 10 years by 4 pallets.
Look, Bells, thanks.
Thank you to the Donahues.
Thank you, Donahues. You're amazing. What is your hope, desire, wish for us to be talking about in 10 years? Because you're not getting rid of me that easy.
Look,
let's be realistic.
Yeah, realistic. Of course, a cure. I'm optimistic that significant advances can be made in the treatment of MND such that the lives of those diagnosed can be prolonged, and working together with strategies around care that we can have an impact both on quantity and quality of life. Yeah. Now, the metrics around that are really interesting. I've spoken to 2 families in the last week, and I know, Jane, you do a lot of this as well, who have recently been diagnosed. And it is profoundly sad and daunting for these families, with, I call it the haze that they are in the early diagnosis.
The first 3 months is a nightmare.
Absolute nightmare. Yeah. For those listening who are in that, our hearts go out.
Oh, sweetheart. Our hearts do go out to you, because we know exactly what you're going through.
And the people around you.
Yeah.
It's tough. But we take energy from the hope that we have around I'll say it again, the high quality of people involved in the fight, that we know we'll get there.
We will get there.
Yeah, we know we'll get there. It's and we knew back in 2015 that we were embarking on a marathon, not a sprint, and that has. But the early days, I know for those who were going through it at the time, it delivered great optimism and hope for us, and we hope now that those living with MND and their families, and those yet to be diagnosed, when they see someone walking down the street in a big freeze beanie, it gives a little dopamine hit of joy, if that's the right word.
Gives me a massive dopamine hit of joy.
Yeah, it does for me too.
Yeah.
But I don't want to presume that for everyone else. My kids my kids see it now when there'll be someone walking down the street and we'll be driving together, and I wind down the window and they go, "Dad, don't."
Do you
don't.
always say thank you?
I know I always do.
I do too. I walk up.
I just go, "Love your beanie."
Me too. I say thank you, and then I ask them why.
Yeah, right. Right. If you got that time, that's
I don't, but I make it.
it is it makes people smile, and it makes them realise that there is this come Big Freeze Day, King's birthday, the community does come together. The site of that MCG is for those who are kind of in the MND community. It's an amazing vote of support. But outside the MCG, it's driving past building sites with tradies and school kids, and it's really it's amazing to see it.
Now you're making me cry too. Stop it.
Sorry, Dan.
That's okay. We got this. We're strong.
We got this. We got this. Yeah, we'll fake it until we make it.
This morning, oh God, Pat will be here. We'll all be crying. Okay. I want to thank you on behalf of so many people who have MND, who have had MND, and us. Because Fight MND does give us hope, and that's the most important thing that people with MND need. So thank you to you and Neale and Ian. God love Ian. Beck Sheehan the other day gave us quite a bit of an insight into Ian, and what a beautiful man he was. And she's still suffering from the loss of him. I'm sure you are too. But Angie will be so proud of you and your girls. And looking at your girls, you're totally married up.
that is starting the bleeding obvious. Right? But my father-in-law reminds me regularly. G'day, Bill and Suze. And I was punching well.
Yeah,
above.
you punched well above your weight.
Good God. But look, Jane, thank you. That's a really kind sentiment. However, you know all too well that there's a crew behind the Fight MND cause that is breathtakingly talented, skilled, generous.
They're amazing.
And it's the scale of the impact that we have been able to have in terms of awareness and fundraising and investment into research has a lot more to do with the scale and the quality of the people that we've had along the journey. One of the descriptors I've used in the past is that the contribution that Neale, Ian and I made early days, and it was really only the very early days because this happened incredibly quickly, was we created a little vortex. We were all aligned, all doing it for no other reason other than to try and deliver hope and have some purpose in the diagnosis of this disease of those two gentlemen and dear Ange. But we created a little vortex that started spinning, and that vortex drew in people like Bill Guest. It's drawn in people, our most recent chairman's on the board, drawn in our current chair, Mike Schneider. It's drawn in the entire Daniher family. It's drawn in an incredibly skilled, capable, generous board. But it's also drawn in the year 7 child I saw this morning walking into school with a beanie on.
Yeah.
They've all been sucked into this vortex.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful vortex to be in.
It is.
And it can be a wild ride at times, for the reasons that you talk about, where you get called on by families who are recently diagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
That every time that happens, the heart just drops, and you just try and do whatever you can to help.
You can. But you know, the hashtag for this year is do, not say. And you did, not said. So the three of you actually, 11 days after, it's all about action, putting your words into action.
Well, we were energized then at the opportunity. We're still energized now that the job's not done.
No.
And when Neale says, don't say do, you get on and do.
Yeah, you do. I dare you not to.
It's been a great privilege of my relatively short life, I think. I like to think of it as short, Jane.
We'll ask the others what they think.
But it's been a great privilege to have exposure to the firsthand to the thinking and doing of the likes of Neale and Ian and our wonderful board. They're good people who think very well. It's and they also do very well.
They do very well. Pat, you have to leave. You've got a day. You've been here for hours now. Thank you.
Thanks for the croissants.
That's okay.
Yeah, really good.
Thanks for offering the coffee, but I don't drink coffee.
It's been great to catch up with you, Jane. Always is.
It always is, Pat.
And
like
and have
a cry.
I think I'm getting better. I don't
think you are.
No, it's just there's a couple of things that.
Pat got up for the Big Freeze media launch the other day, and he said, "I'm going to cry," and we all went, "Oh God, not again!"
Not again.
And he cried.
Yeah. I'm such a sook. But it's
no, I like it.
I don't walk around crying, Jane.
Well, every time I see you, you're crying, so I don't agree with that.
But you see me talking about this, and it's really look, it's only
it doesn't stop hurting.
Yeah, it doesn't stop hurting. Whenever I go back to that day of the diagnosis, when I go back to the final days of Ange's life with the kids, it's mainly the kids and the diagnosis.
That's what hurts.
Yeah.
It's thinking, it's actually, I don't know about you, but for me, it's thinking about the impact on other people, not the impact on myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
There's another thing that used to trigger me a lot more than it doesn't now, is that the empathy and kindness of others when things are tough.
Yeah.
That to me is it's the beautiful part of human nature. The people's natural inclination.
Yeah. Is to love
and to lean in and support. That is incredibly humbling.
I know.
You've seen it all.
Yep, I have.
Thanks, Jane.
Thanks, Pat.
Yeah, that's your fault that I cried. I'm blaming you.
I'm going to turn this off now, but Pat will keep crying after. I promise you. Thank you, darling.
No worries. Thank you.
Mwah.
Ah,
You know, it is